Nice. Just says yes, it's loading, I think. So it looks good. Hold on. Yeah, it's live.
As they take to the start here for the very first time. Looking down the inside of Jack Keithley as well, a touch of contact between the two. Still rubbing wheel to wheel. What a move! Fantastic stuff. Welcome along then, once again, as we return to the embrace of German soil. We take to the famous ribbon of track located in the forests of the Eifel Mountains and all the challenges they hold. One of the most loved venues in the world. It's one we may see the standard running order turned on its head as specialists of the circuit come to the fore. That said, the standard running order is not something that even we know for 2021. 4 different winners from 4 races and just 2 drivers have visited the podium on more than one occasion. It is as wide open as we could wish. Round 3 then in the CUPRA SimRacing Series of 2021 as we take on the Nordschleife for our only 60-minute test of the season. I'm Lewis McGlade. Sadly, Chris Buxton could not join me in the commentary booth today, and we wish him the very best. Joining me though, very fittingly I feel, on the return to the CUPRA SimRacing Series, it's Robert Wiesenmüller. Hello, and how are you doing?
Hello everyone, hello Lewis. Yes, it's great to be back, even if it's just for one round here. But what a round it is. Nordschleife, a 24-hour layout, 60-minute race with the mandatory pit stop. It couldn't get much more exciting.
It's a circuit which, in a sense, we've visited a few times. We have been here a couple of times, but only running on the not even the Grand Prix loop. We ran the sprint layout over on the Grand Prix venue. This is the first time in the CUPRA SimRacing Series itself we tackle the Nordschleife, and with that, some drivers may be a little bit jumping into Division 1, maybe not necessarily for the first time, but with stronger intentions than previous. That said, a lot of the drivers we're used to seeing, Rob, on the grid, Ben Spanky, Jack Keithley, we're expecting to battle it out. We know Keithley's very, very good here. A couple of other drivers a bit higher than we would have expected, though. Maybe Rasmus Salo, who was just about in Division 1 last round, right up there in the pre-qualifiers.
Yeah, James Montgomery as well, P4. So that was quite impressive. We will see how it goes, and I think if you haven't seen the last round, well, you've certainly missed something. But Lewis, luckily, you've prepared the highlights for us.
Welcome to highlights from the second round of the CUPRA SimRacing Series from the home of British motorsport at Silverstone. Kirill Antonov would return to Division 1 by taking pole position from Martin Barner and Florian Harsa. Poor qualifyings from Moritz Lerner and Alessandro Ottaviani would leave them with all of the work to do as they march forward from a low position. Antonov then would be away well to defend from Martin Barner through the fast opening section. The Dewey Sports driver of Florian Harsa would also be on the attack in the background. It would be tight between the top 2 in the opening section of the race. Martin Barner was attempting anything on Kirill Antonov, but Antonov had an answer and would hold the lead. Moritz Lerner, Gergo Baldi battling way down in the order, a poor qualifying for both as they would struggle their way up the order. The all-important battle towards the back end of the top 10 saw Leandro Vela defending from David Toth, but it was Mikael Raikl who was fast onto the scene to gain the position on the Hungarian. Fiducci would get by Florian Harsa, courtesy of Harsa's mistake, but as we ride on board with Zoltan Ciuti, it was Florian Harsa who would hold the position. Alessandro Ottaviani got by David Toth with this move at the final chicane. And then we ride on board with Alessandro Ottaviani, seeing Raikl dive it to the inside of Leandro Vela. It would open the door for Ottaviani to get onto the scene, but then a misjudge in the braking zone coming into Brooklands caused this incident. Ciuti attacking to try and get onto the podium would dive it to the inside into the club chicane, up and over the curbs onto 2 wheels. He would complete the pass on Fiducci and get himself into 4th. But Fiducci wasn't waiting long to try and send it back. He would go around the outside, almost making it stick on Harsa as well, as this intense battle pack would see an awful lot of contact dished out. Sciuti would get it to the inside of Florian Harsa, making contact and bump from the rear as well with Fiducci, and Harsa would bail from the battle pack. That final step on the podium would be hard fought as Fiducci would get to the inside of Sciuti at Brooklands. The door would be opened into Luffield and the switchback would work in favour of the Italian. Kirill Antonov would be out front all day, Martin Barner the only driver to keep him honest, but it was all about Antonov at Silverstone. Antonov's return to Division 1 sees him continue in winning ways ahead of Martin Barner and Gianmarco Fiducci. Toth with a 10th place finish would reverse up to pole position from our championship leader Alessandro Ottaviani. Race 2 would be underway with David Toth having a great start. It was Ottaviani though who was under a lot of pressure in the early stages from Mikko Raikkonen, who was instantly on the attack. Raikkonen's teammate though, Florian Harsa, would fancy his way through to try and work his way up onto the podium, would try and go around the outside but would have no way through. Zoltan Sciuti would have a slowdown of sorts and have to drop to the rear end of the field. And then Ottaviani was very much on the attack, straight down the inside of the Hungarian and up into the race lead. Then it would be Mikko Raikkonen's attempt to go around the outside into Village Corner, and he would get the Hungarian before they hit the loop. Pinsesh would try this audacious pass on Florian Harsa by diving it to the inside before we exit Chapel. A fantastic attempt, but it would not work. Harsa on the attack, a big dive bomb down the inside of David Toth, and he would get himself up a position. Raikkonen would start to really work on the back of Ottaviani, trying to go around the outside of Stowe, but no way around there. It would open the door for Florian Harsa to go through, and he would gain the position. David Toth as well, trying to get back a part of it and back onto the podium, leaving his nose down the inside, potentially opening the door for Bence Banki. With this cutback, it would be the position of the Door Esports man. Gianmarco Fiducci would be the next driver to try and pass David Toth with this fantastic move around the outside at Village. Final lap of the race and the last opportunities for Florian Harsa to try and go around the outside of Ottaviani. He'd swing wide and open the door for Raikkonen to try and go through, halting the progress of his teammate. Ottaviani at the front of the field then would come out of the final corner and hold off the charge of the three Door Esports drivers to take victory at Silverstone. Another thrilling round of the CUPRA SimRacing Series. Alessandro Ottaviani on top from Florian Harsa and Raikkonen. Jack Keithley just getting within the top 10 after a disappointing round. Lerner had a difficult one. He'll be looking to come back stronger on home soil.
Thanks a lot, Lewis. Yeah, and maybe one thing we have to add after these highlights: Alessandro Ottaviani did get a penalty for the incident he had with Leandro Verle. So that means Martin Barner is our new championship leader, and that's quite a surprise.
Yeah, fantastic to see. He's a driver who's been on the podium this season, being at the first race, rather, just coming up short from Kirill Antonov. A driver who's really moved forward this season, Robert. It says on there, 10th place in the CUPRA SimRacing Series of 2020. A large improvement to be battling it out for the championship, albeit, yes, in the very early stages of this season. These things can unfold very differently as the season progresses, but what a start to the campaign it is.
Yeah, and I think it's a new generation of drivers coming in who really can fight for the championship here. Last season we had Fiducci, but this year we have Barner, we have Ottaviani, of course. I would say perhaps Pliska or Antonov as well, who are really making a mark in this championship. And let's see how it goes on the most difficult track on the calendar. Well, you can even argue, is it the most difficult track, because Macau is also coming up. And one thing is for sure, it's not gonna be easy at the Nordschleife.
Macau is a tricky one, but it is a known quantity in the fact that we have raced it at the end of both of the previous seasons. So it's something which the drivers are aware of that challenge coming. This is something that we haven't raced yet. And whilst they have raced it, obviously, you know, countless times probably in sim racing before, I know this man, Jack Keithley, most certainly has. The unknown as to how this is going to play out is a little bit It could be interesting for them. Keithley's won here a good few times. Remember when we did that LAN event back in 2018, he was victorious around here, if I remember correctly, and had third on the endurance race. We won't talk about why, but it's very, very fast around here.
Yeah, definitely one of the favorites. Second in pre-quali, just behind Ben's Bunky. I think we will go into the qualifying. We've got a special mode of qualifying here for this round.
Yeah, naturally, the way of qualifying around the Nordschleife is not quite as simple as it would be for everywhere else on the calendar. It is a session of 20 minutes. The drivers will be on the circuit by themselves. For anyone who watched the race a few days ago, I think it was on the Wednesday, we had this qualifying format. So 20 minutes, a closed session, you versus the track. It means roughly, as long as you don't mess up too badly, you'll get 2 laps on the board. We are running the 24-hour layout, so we run the Grand Prix loop with the exception of the arena section, and then we'll do the full Nordschleife, of course. Can't do it in half, so it's fine. But it's interesting that there is a cut-off point here, Rob, isn't there, where if you were on a bad lap or whatever, you can escape. You can start another lap, as long as you make sure that it is with around about 9 minutes to go, because you need to make sure you get that lap on the board before the session ends.
Yeah, in theory it's a good format for the drivers, because you don't have the problematic with the slipstreaming.
Yep.
And, well, you can get 2 laps in and even make a mistake in the first corner. Track limits are very harsh in qualifying in the first corner. You will see here Martin Barner. Oof, we can't quite see it from this angle, but they really have to avoid the curb there on the inside.
What your opinion is of turn 2 here, that awkward left-hander. Obviously you come down through turn 1. I despise it. Love the track, absolutely hate that corner.
Yeah, it's just one of these corners where, of course, it was a chicane for a long time in the first corner at the Nürburgring, and then at the end of the I think at the end of the 90s or in the early 2000s they changed it and they built the Mercedes Arena. But at the 24-hour race they can't use the Mercedes Arena, of course, because they need it as an extra paddock. So yeah, they kind of didn't rebuild a nice flowy chicane, they just made this very awkward chicane, and yeah. But it's the same for all drivers.
Yep,
we will see who can navigate it the best. Martin Barner here still on track, still on the Grand Prix loop.
Championship leader, fantastic to see him. Obviously a new signing in a sense for Mirror Esports was I believe it was AAA last season, wasn't he? Along with Adam Pinsescu. Those two have switched. Pinsescu is now driving for Arnage, and Martin Barner of course for Mirror Esports. And with David Nodge not taking part this season, good to see Mirror Esports picking up, or at least not so far, at least they're picking up strength in other drivers and then pushing them to the front.
Yeah, and he's really been the elite driver so far this season, and that was not necessarily to be expected. Aldi, he's not driving today, he's missing the race. Lerner also missing the race because he's driving in DTM Trophy in the real series, so that's very cool. But yeah, back to Mira. Martin Barner really has shown consistency, especially throughout the different events so far. That's why he's leading the championship, and he could really become a title candidate here. But at the Nordschleife, I think, especially because we just have one race here, there's not the top 10 reverse grid. The qualifying is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Barner took his first podium in the CUPRA SimRacing Series last round out. So that one where he finished runner up to Kirill Antonov was very good for him. A form book around here is massively committed through Flugplatz. The form book that we have, we don't have one for this track because we've never raced it before, but the form book of the series, I said it to you beforehand, that when it comes to maybe you find your form for an endurance race for the 60-minute races, there isn't really one of those, because for every endurance race, or every 60-minute race rather we've done, we call them the endurance races here in the CUPRA SimRacing Series when we run these 60-minute races, every single one has been won by a different driver, with the exception of Moritz Lerner, who's won 2, and Moritz Lerner is not here today, so there's no form book there because it's all wildly different. The only sort of glimmer that I can take is people that have done well so far this season and in previous races. So Kirill Antonov has won 3 of the last 6 races, obviously winning 2 at Macau at the end of last season, and then winning at Silverstone. Technically he also won at the Hockenheimring, but that was in Division 2. Ottaviani, obviously winning in the previous race, so having done very well. He has 3 top 5s to his name, but most importantly is one of those drivers who's visited the podium twice this season. So showing
there from Ottaviani.
Showing how much he's pushing. He is throwing this car around.
You can see the split times at the bottom, and you could see that Barner and Antonov both have almost exactly the same time, 309.6. Ottaviani a little bit behind. You can't see it here in our timing. Who's first? I'm just gonna check some of the usual suspects. Keithley, 309.2. That could be the fastest.
You'd expect it from Keithley, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but he was beaten in the pre-qualifying, and he hasn't... I mean, he's won the race, of course, in Hockenheim, but it was the reverse grid race. He hasn't been on that type of form this season. Let's check Bunky. Yeah, Bunky is slower, so Keithley really on good form here.
Yeah, Keithley has... Obviously, like you say, he won already this season. But like you're saying, his form in the other races is not indicative of a standard Keithley effort. Remember that he obviously finished 9th in race 1 of the season. That's what reversed him up to the front row, just behind Gomez, and then overtook for the race lead and ended up winning that one. At Silverstone, he was 10th in race 1, 11th rather in race 1, so he just missed out on the reverse grid. But the point from that is that in the race that's more indicative of your pace, when it comes from the qualifying session, lower end of the top 10, outside of it, not really what we've come to expect from Keithley, is it?
No, not really. But it just shows the progress here on the championship. A lot of drivers have said it's very difficult to even qualify for the races. We've seen David Notch, we've seen Antonov failing to qualify in the first round. And yeah, even for someone like Keithley, okay, he was 2nd in the pre-qualifying, so definitely still got the pace to qualify for the races. But it's not as easy anymore as it was like 5 years ago when it was him versus Heinemann and Kunze.
But that's the abnormality of this circuit, isn't it? In a sense where, like you say, he's 2nd, and this is where it feels really harsh to say the abnormality. But a circuit like this, I'd almost say it's almost a guarantee that Keithley will qualify, because he knows his way around this circuit, as do quite a lot of the more experienced drivers on the grid. They do know their way around this venue. Whereas when it comes to somewhere like Hockenheimring, where the lap is so short and you have to be within an 1/8 of a second to get on, that means that you have to deliver the perfect lap. There is no margin for error in there. As Kirill Antonov so unfortunately, where he missed out by a few thousandths, or I think it was a single thousandth of a second, and it wasn't good enough for him to be on the grid.
Yeah, this circuit's really... But I was still surprised, like, how close the times were here.
Yeah. And how fast they were.
Yeah, I think it was 200s between Keithley and Bunky for the P1 on the leaderboard. That's not much. If you're wondering why you only see Keithley and no other cars, that's the qualifying format here. Because otherwise it could be too much chaos, and of course you can't really do an outlap either, because it will take too long. So that's why each driver has to track for himself in the qualifying session. And that also means we will see a lot of times coming in very, close to each other when the first drivers cross the line.
Also in not very long. I noticed how Keithley, I feel like I'm the wrong person to judge Keithley's driving around this track, but I will anyway. Seems like he's hitting a lot of the curbs quite hard, which I would have suggested normally. I know obviously, touring cars, they can take on curbs, but the curbs around here, they're quite large, they're quite aggressive. You don't really want to be slamming them too hard.
Yeah, you don't do it in a GT3 car or something like that. You avoid most of the curves, but in these front-wheel drive cars, it kind of works. It's always a bit tricky when you hit the grass, because your tires get dirty for a couple of corners, so you lose a little bit of time. But, just hitting the curves, and even, if there's a fast section coming up with no braking zones, no corners, then you can even touch the grass a little bit, as long as you don't invalidate your lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this part of the circuit, obviously, the Dittinger boring by yourself, pretty dull. It's an extended straight. It's very, very long. It's a little bit uninteresting. When we get into the racing action, though, that is where we'll see a lot of it, and it's where patience is going to be critical. If you're on the rear end of someone coming out of Galgenkopf on the final lap of the race, you're odds on, you're quids in, you're expecting to take top honours. Although that was very aggressive on the curbing through the final chicane towards the line. Let's see what the time's going to be.
Oh, that's a fantastic time.
8:48.3. Oh my goodness, that is a monster lap time. You were saying before the broadcast, we would, not too long ago, we were speaking of, 8:49s being a really, really good time. 8:50 is kind of the expectation, and 8:48.3. Yeah, that's kind of what we expect from Keithley around it.
Yeah, and that will be hard to beat. The best time on the competition was 8:48.2.
Right.
So that's crazy.
And to say I was judging him for his lap and taking too much curb. Typical. Incredible lap time. Half a second ahead of Gianmarco Fiducci, who could do well with some decent points around here. The big note for me would be after the first lap of proceedings, there he is on screen. Martin Barner only 10th. Bence Banky only 9th for that as well. Not great opening to the session.
No, that's really not great, but we see a couple of drivers. Another Nordschleife specialist there, Adam Pinches, up to P3.
Yeah, doing very, very well. Obviously, Alessandro Ottaviani desperate to retake the championship lead, 4th position. Florian Harsa. I said that Ottaviani was the driver who took was a driver that's been on the podium twice, and I did allude to the idea that there was a second driver who has been on the podium twice this season, and that is Florian Harsa. Was in the podium in the opening race of the season behind Ottaviani, and finished behind Ottaviani again at Silverstone. Was desperately trying to go for the race win for Dirt Esports. And a fantastic race for them, by the way. They finished 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the second race of Silverstone. So for Dirt Esports, they were very, very happy with that. Moritz Lerner did not have a good race, technical issues and God knows what else, and unfortunately finished very much by the wayside after a not so great qualifying. But for Harsa, very, very good indeed.
And I've got one more interesting stat for you. Let's just see if we can bring it up. We've checked how many laps the drivers have done on the Nordschleife, or how many kilometers they've done in general throughout the whole history of RaceRoom. And it's quite interesting. You can see Pinches and Keithley near the front, but Michael Rechel is topping the charge with 16,879 kilometers.
It's pretty impressive. Not quite a round the globe effort. It does have to go quite a bit further than that. I think it's 40,000 kilometres to quite meet that one. But regardless, nearly 17,000 kilometres is very, very impressive. That is a lot of laps, Rob, and a lot of experience, which around a track like this is its own form of currency. And you can tell that because has escaped. At some point, you can quite clearly tell because he's not too far into a lap, but still has enough time to complete it as long as it's a nice clean lap.
Yeah, and I think now we will see the second sector times, well, the second times of the first sector coming in. We can really see who's up on the time. Yeah, Rechel here still in the black livery, but he will get his own custom Dirt Esports livery in the next round. A couple of drivers will also get one, like Ottaviani, like Pliska, like Bana as well, who still have these liveries from last year here. They will be added for the next round at Aragon. Michael Rechel, you can see, he almost rolls it there. Oy, oy, oy. This car is not easy to drive on this track.
It doesn't look it, Rob. It doesn't look it. That is surely time lost through there. It was a little bit too aggressive on the rear, and I'm not so sure that'll be conducive to good lap time, because every time you have one of those slides, you just lose time off of the corner.
Antonov is purple in the first sector. And he's not the only one. 3 drivers are purple. Pinches, also purple. It's also one of these who will get his own skin in the next round. A nice pink and white car will be added then.
Ooh.
It's just purple in the first sector, and Bence Banky as well.
Bence Banky needs it as well. Obviously, Bence Banky topping the pre-qualifier, but from memory has done that quite a few times. Did it an awful lot last season. In fact, topped the pre-qualifiers on 8 occasions last season, which is pretty impressive, and then 2 in the first season, so 10 in total. This was his 11th time topping a pre-qualifying session, at least as far as my numbers go. More than anyone else by a very, very long stretch. But the thing is, Rob, he doesn't normally back that up by taking a pole position. In fact, only has 3 pole positions in his CUPRA SimRacing Series career.
Yeah, and it's also been a while. I mean, Bunky's always there or thereabouts at the front. So he's in a good position in the championship. He's definitely a contender for the title. But it has been a little bit of time since he was really ultra competitive. You know, fighting outright for victory. I think the last time he won was at Suzuka last year.
Yeah.
So it's good to see him here on the pace. P9, he won't be happy with that at all. But he's just 1/10 behind Keithley. Keithley is also purple though in the first sector. Not by much though. I think Antonov is the fastest right now. But he also lost the time in the second sector.
We're saying with Banky that he's won 4 races in total. Like you say, since he was ultra competitive, won the first ever race of the CUPRA SimRacing Series. Is one of the drivers that's won in both of the previous seasons, having won the first race and winning twice last season as well. So certainly a driver that does know how to win this series, but just doesn't do it consistently enough in this to mount a champion challenge, which potentially we could see out of him this season. Was not really a part of a massive outfit last season. Was a part of Red Bull Racing Esports, but they didn't have a contingent of drivers to help. Now with Dur Esports, there's a lot of backing that will try and push him forward.
Yeah, that's true, although they are one man down now, with Löhner missing the race. And he's not the only one who has got title chances. Yes. Hasse definitely has title chances as well. Rechel is in the top 10.
It's kind of one of those things, like looking at them, looking at Mirror Esports as well. These teams, like, it's great they've got all these drivers and stuff, but they're all drivers that have championship aspirations. They're all drivers that want to battle it out for the title. I mean, we all want to battle out for the title, of course we do. It's a silly point, but it is still a point regardless that in a team, you don't want it to be, especially Moritz Löhner, won't want it to turn out respectfully for something like it was when he was at Williams Esports. They kind of tripped over each other a little bit rather than trying to work together as a team, unlike Mirror Esports, who were working as a well-oiled machine to push David Nagy as far up as possible.
Yeah, that was impressive, the teamwork from Mirror Esports, but you can see this time they're all quite far down the order. Barner the best in 10th, Zupanek in 13th, Schuti only in 15th. Well, that's a good lap from him, but I think he was on pole here in Esports WTCR, so he definitely knows the circuit. Definitely is quite competitive here.
Will he get this lap completed? No, I guess 3 minutes from here is about right.
Let's see who's the first one to finish the lap. I think it could be Antonov.
And looking good, at least to get onto the front row. See what he can do. I said the driver who's looking for more wins took his first win last season in the final round at Macau, and as I said, if you were to do a look at form, the last 6 races, won 50% of them, has won 3 in the last 6. So a driver who definitely wants to make it 4 from 7, and certainly a driver who could, one of those young-blooded talents that is really going to start moving forward, not just here in sim racing but across the sim racing world, has been moving forward and showing incredible potential for the Leaderboard Rosenf team, and that seems to be continuing here. Has to do the hard work. The last time we were here, when we did the sprint layout, did actually have pole position, if I remember correctly. So, you know, maybe it's an omen.
Let's see where this lap is going to put him. I think Bunky will be... He's almost at the same space of the track, so he will set his time basically at the same time. Should be an improvement, but that last corner was not as good as Keithley's.
Keithley really did throw it over the curb very, very aggressively in a standard Keithley way that he knows how to do so well. Kirill Antonov to the line, only good enough for 4th. Bence Banky, though, good enough for the front row of the grid. Getting some changes coming in here. Jack Keithley looking to potentially improve. He's close, but let's see if he can do so. 8:48.365 he has on the board. Important improvement for Kirill Antonov and for Bence Banky. Pushes Martin Barner outside of the top 10. As I say it, moves up into 6th. That could be important.
Let's get up to P8 and let's see Keithley now. Oh, I think Hasse just moved back up to... Oh, Todd, one of them.
Todd, yeah.
Todd always good on the qualies here. Jack Keithley already has pole. I don't think anyone can stop him. But maybe it will be another improvement for the Englishman. Ooh, I'm not sure.
Oh,
It is.
was. There we go.
48.1.
Faster than the pre-qualifier, is that? Obviously, you know, ties up the temperature and all that, so the second that might be if you've looked after them enough, but that is massively impressive. A 48.168, half a second clear of the driver that beat him in the pre-qualifying scenario. So a fantastic effort from the man from Ipswich. Whether it will hold to the end of the session, I would say you'd be pretty mad to bet against it, but you never really know. By the way, after all of those improvements, Ottaviani dropped down to 10th.
Look at Schuty's second sector. The second sector was faster than Keithley's.
Very impressive. See if he can do any major improvement to the line. Zoltan Schuty does indeed, improves up to 8th position, drops Alessandro Ottaviani off of the front row.
Good stuff there. Keithley on pole ahead of Bunky. Ducci in third, and then Kirill Antonov.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. With Jack Keithley then on pole position, Banky and Fiducci behind. Race one, the race will be coming up in just a few moments, and hopefully we're going to see some thrilling action in that. 60 minutes at the Nordschleife ahead of us then, and after a thrilling qualifying session, it is Jack Keithley and Bent Banky on the front row in that all-important run down into turn one. You can see at the bottom of your screen, no Moritz Lerner. Best of luck to him from all of us here at RaceRoom and in the CUPRA SimRacing Series paddock racing in the DTM Trophy race at Monza this weekend. Only announced it not very long ago, so best of luck to him. This run down into turn one is going to be crucial. It is going to be absolutely pivotal to make sure you get track position to keep yourself out of the danger. Keithley and Banky on the front row with Fiducci and Antonov, the young guns, on the row behind, about to get underway here at the Nordschleife for an hour's race. We are underway in the CUPRA SimRacing Series, and Jack Keithley will be leading the way. It's not a good launch though from Bent Banky, as Gianmarco Fiducci is going to try and go around the outside. Seems to have had a better launch in his Cupra from the second row of the grid. Heavy onto the brakes, down into the first corner of the racetrack, and it'll be around the outside for Fiducci. Might well get this one done. Tight to the inside. Bent Banky's going around trying to make it stick. You've also got Kirill Antonov under pressure from Adam Pinsesh directly behind, but Keithley's away clear.
Great start from Keithley there. Banky lost the place, but he's still close. Antonov in behind. Oh, bit of a touch there already from Antonov. Penalty points or incident points are still active, of course, set to 60 for this event, so you have to be careful as usual.
Seen those work against drivers in previous rounds of this season as well, most notably in the first one. I think Gomez had one, quite a few others as well. Tiladina, as we're getting some tight stuff here from Alessandro Ottaviani with Pliszka directly behind the two Italians fighting out over the back end of the top 10. So Ottaviani up a position, now going to try and get past Zoltan Schuty, as we've got some battling with Kirill Antonov and Bent Banky once again for that podium position. Ottaviani seems to be clear and clean, at least in 10th. Needs to work forward though if he wants to retake the championship lead today.
Looking back from Bent Banky now, P3, looking at Kirill Antonov. Winner last time out, of course, in Silverstone. Coming up to the chicane, but it's the fast chicane. Very difficult to make an overtaking attempt here. Backs out of it.
Very smart. Oh no! Oh, Kirill Antonov, costly mistake on the first lap. Gets it back onto the road, doesn't roll, drops only a single position to Adam Pinsesh. Oh my goodness, Rob, that was so close. Now having to defend from Martin Barner, who's fancying his way through. That could have been tears.
So close to throwing away his entire race there, just going a bit too far over the curb. Looked like he would get a better run than Banky. It was just a little bit too much curb, and now Pinsesh up into P4.
I mean, we saw that a couple of times. Zoltan Schuty getting one up like that. David Todt as well. had a couple at Silverstone. If you take the curbs in this, they do go up onto two wheels, and if you're not careful, you can take a curb hard enough to roll it. I mean, Rakel was pretty close in that qualifying session through this section, so one driver who does have to be careful, although tight stuff in the background is Lucas Berler with Montgomery, who I think might have wanted something a little bit better considering the pace coming into it, as they're battling it out up towards Flugplatz under pressure. He is from Attila Dina behind, looking backwards from Gianmarco Verducci, 3/10 off of the rear end. Looking backwards from Jack Keithley rather, with Gianmarco Verducci just a couple of tenths off. And then it's Spence Banky, and a little bit of a gap formed courtesy of that error from Kirill Antonov.
Coming up now through Schwedenkreuz, you can see how much Verducci's car is moving there. It's very difficult to keep the front-wheel drive CUPRA Leon Competition on the road there. Gets very nervous, aggressive default setup on the cars here. Now it gets even harder, in my opinion, when we go down to Fuchsröhre, because there's this curb. We're just gonna look the other way. Let's look maybe from Verducci. And you can see now the curb on the left side. It really unsettles the car. Beautifully driven by Keithley there. That is a tricky section, and I would not be surprised if some people crash here. Seems like everyone got through pretty fine, though.
I think so. Seems so indeed. Rasmus
Antonov
there.
has passed Pinsish.
Oh, that would have been bold out of Ardnau Force. Now has to defend it, and you can see the pressure as well with Martin Barner in the mix, as he will want to work his way up. Our championship leader at present will know that Alessandro Ottaviani will be charging behind. The harder they fight, though, the more time they lose. Is there going to be a dive from Adam Pinsesh? It would be a very Adam Pinsesh thing to do, but no way at the moment. This needs to be a perfect part of the race for Kirill Antonov if he has sights on winning his 4th race in the CUPRA SimRacing Series.
He's got quite a big gap to close now, but there is the strategy, of course. Antonov running wide again here. Oh, he's on the limit, he's on the edge.
Look at this train. Absolutely fantastic. Montgomery losing the position then to Attila Dina, and Rasmus Salo, the Finn, might be the next one through. Also have the very bright car of Luciano Wittfurt behind for Ballas Racing, and they've got a fairly strong fan base in not only the CUPRA SimRacing Series but across all communities in RaceRoom Racing Esports.
Look how close the field still is. So Kovikov still right at the back. No one dropped out. Gomez didn't start the race, so that's why we're down to 23. But still, it's super close here, and they're still fighting pretty hard, even for the last position.
I think Montgomery just made a dive. He did.
Side by side. With Attila, Dina, Montgomery in pink, Dina in black. I think we have to go to the front, because Keithley is under pressure by Verducci.
What does Verducci do? What does Verducci do? Making a little bit of contact with the Englishman, just trying to bump draft and pull away from Spence Banky. I think Banky's made a little bit of a mistake. This could be genius at play from Verducci, just trying to break the pack behind.
Big slide from Keithley there, but he takes a lot of speed through the corner, actually. Didn't cost him, it only cost Verducci.
Verducci will gain it back though in the slipstream. Not panic stations at the moment. You don't really want to fight it that hard at this point. You just want to work together, because especially whilst you've got a gap to Antonov in 4th, if you work together, if you trying to pull away from that group, say for example you get it out to 4 or 5 seconds and towards the end of the race, it's almost at that point as if like the worst you could finish at that stage would be 3rd, which, let's be honest, ain't bad. What he's trying to do though is he's trying to work with him enough to build the gap to Banky, and so that it would be between Verducci and Keithley, a battle that we've seen a couple of times in the CUPRA SimRacing Series. Let's take a look once again as to what happened to Kirill Antonov. There's the curb, just absolutely smashes the curb at the chicane. I don't know how he didn't go over.
I was very lucky there not to go over, and also lucky not to lose so many positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Really is fantastic. These two though, pulling away. The gap is just around about a second between Verducci and Banky. Montgomery on screen again as here. Never mind, I think that might be the old Channel Islands connection problemo, as mixed in with a couple of mistakes, and Rasmus Salo will want to get by and not have his day cost too much.
I think might have been when I tried to switch the camera to him, and maybe that put him off there. So I won't do that again to him, I guess. Definitely lost some time. It's still on the road.
Broadcaster's curse.
Yeah, it's the new form of the...
Yeah.
Yeah. Not quite the same old commentator's curse that we know.
Yeah, I can't say that everyone's doing very well these days. Because I still maintain the commentator's curse doesn't exist. That's bad driving. Not so much on this field though. Fantastic drivers, left, right and centre. It really is brilliant to be a part of the CUPRA SimRacing Series. And obviously you can take part as well. We've got a little bit of a break between this round and the next one, where you can jump your way into the CUPRA SimRacing Series and be a part of this fantastic grid, whether it's on Division 1 or elsewhere. We've got plenty of others races being run behind the scenes. On to the very, very important Duttinger for the first time out of Galgenkopf. Jack Keithley has built a gap at the right time, nearly a second, not quite enough, and that gap is going to disappear here, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah. I think it will be getting a lot shorter, but the drivers were allowed to switch the lines on the Duttinger Höhe as long as no one has an overlap. Keithley is not even really using that. I think he's feeling comfortable. Fiduci is gaining. You can definitely see his car getting a little bit bigger, but he's not gaining that much. It's much more closer, a little bit further behind.
Certainly is Pinchesh and Antonov. That's the one that we've just jumped to. Smart work from Pinchesh to push Antonov now. Once again, sights not on... Let's be honest, Pinchesh doesn't want to finish fourth. He's not. His eyes aren't set on that. His eyes are set on the victory, which is what they're all set on. And I like this idea of working with each other, of trying to find a way up into those positions. That is by smart driving. It's by being tactical. And it is by using, Rob, the pit stop that we'll have coming up. There is a mandatory pit stop in this race. It is 60 minutes. They will have to come in between the 15-minute mark and 45-minute mark. So in the middle half of the race. Could play into things very, very importantly, as there's a bit of a dive there from Zoltan Suti, getting it done nearly on Florian Harsa. Ottaviani's gained 2 places though on the Duttinger Höhe and up to 8th.
Cut back from Suti there, a bit of contact, but it could work for him. He has now the inside, but next corner he has the outside. Harsa squeezing him a little bit. But Suti knows he has to go for it there. Ottaviani on the grass, shooting to the back of him. Now it's starting to get a little bit rough here.
Could be a bit of dirty tyres as well for Florian Harsa after that go around the outside. Of course, you were saying that you pick up grass, you do lose a little bit of grip, as he now has to defend from Pliszka, who's directly behind, one of those drivers that really has impressed through the opening couple of races, particularly at the Hockenheim Ring. Has Pliszka 11th place. Maybe we wanted a little bit better, but I'm sure quite a lot of drivers will be in that boat at the moment. But we're only 10 minutes into the race as James Montgomery once again battles it out, but this time it is with Mihai Neg, who's got through, and Rasmus Salo.
Yeah, Neg and Salo, the Absolute Motorsport teammates, they're in red. A little bit further behind than they would like to be. I think especially Salo. But at the front it gets close again. We have to swap again to Fiduci, to Keithley.
Fiduci must have absolutely sent it into the final chicane to try and get at least closed up as best he can. Could be very, very important. A driver who said that he wasn't feeling particularly comfortable around the Nordschleife, and knowing the experience of all the drivers around. While to win this race, you are going to have to beat the very best, the king of the Nordschleife himself in esports racing here on RaceRoom, Jack Keithley. That is not going to be an easy fight, and if you were a betting man, I think it would pretty comfortably go the way of the Williams esports driver, but you never really know. Bence Banki I certainly wouldn't rule out of this, and to be honest, nor would I rule Kirill Antonov out of it, who, courtesy of that push, is right on the rear end once again of Bence Banki.
It's looking a little bit like Banki can't quite hold the pace of the 2 leaders.
Yeah. I still maintain I think he made a mistake, maybe at like Bergwerk or something like that. He must have made a mistake around the that sort of outer part of the racetrack, because he lost a good bit of time on the run up the hill towards the Mutkirche.
Let's see if anyone will make a pass here. Not so far at the front, but look there in the background, Harsa and Schuti.
I'm not vibing that one. It's got to be around the outside of Schwedenkreuz, and that's going to be a bold one over the crest. There's a little bit of contact between the two. Florian Harsa is going to back out of that one, as absolutely throwing it in was Zoltan Suti, Pliszka as well behind. That'll be Mikael Rakel, the Dur Esports man, trying to get by Ben Supanek as well at the rear end of the train in the unbranded Dur Esports car. A little bit
disappointed. It's probably a bit harsh again, but a little bit disappointed with Raikkonen.
Could have been more here. I think he was further up in the qualifying, but then couldn't improve on the second run. But that's not over yet. I mean, strategy will come into play. Pit window goes open in 2.5 minutes. And then they can do that pit stop. They have to refuel as well and change the front tire, so it will be interesting. We've seen plenty of drive-through penalties, especially for Jack Keithley in this year. I think David Todd had a drive-through penalty as well. Pinchas might have had one. So, yeah. Can happen very quickly.
Easy to do, because at this level, when it's this fast, you can't afford to take it a little bit easy on pit lane entry. You can't afford to give up a tenth or two here or there just to make yourself life a bit more comfortable. You've got to push it to its very limit. And when this is the only race of the season with a pit stop, it's the only 60-minute race this season. Unlike last season where we were jumping between these sprint and endurance formats every other round where you'd get used to it. None of that this season. We are sprint racing basically all the way up until Macau, with the very specific exception of what you are seeing today. So that pit lane sequence, it will separate the men from the boys in a sense, where we'll see how brave drivers are with their commitment to it. David Todt playing his cards right. He's got a 3-second gap to Alessandro Ottaviani behind. Don't think has any intent, the Hungarian, in attacking his compatriot directly ahead. Martin Barner, ex-teammates with Adam Pinches, or Pinces rather. Just going to sit here, just going to wait, and I love that.
Yeah, Todd went into the season with a little bit of a reputation of being hot-headed. And honestly, he's proven absolutely the opposite in this season. He didn't play in these slipstream games at Silverstone, had a fantastic qualifying. Yeah. He didn't quite have the pace in the race, but he did the best, and he still finished in the top 10 in both races. That's great to see, and once again he's in the top 10, and once again Fiduci is bump drafting Keithley.
Yeah, let's see if anything's going to happen. It was a big slide here, and it is once again from Jack Keithley, but Fiduci was wary of it and managed to keep his foot in a little bit more. Look at the gap they've built. Spence Banky, he has dropped in and is well under pressure from Kirill Antonov as well, who may well bump draft him on the Dottingerhoa, but yeah, for me, I don't think Banky's got the pace of these two. Gianmarco Fiduci is working with Keithley in the best possible way, and if you have two drivers working with each other, both on incredible pace, they are going to be very, very hard to beat around here. On your point with David Todt, and like I say, being hot-headed, etc., etc., the biggest thing that I was most impressed with was, remember when he was, obviously didn't really have the pace in race 2, the reverse grid pole, dropped backwards into the pack, but at no point did I think he did anything reckless, anything silly, anything misjudged. It was all like, I'm going to lose this position, I'm going to battle for it, I'm going to try, but I'm probably going to lose these spots. I'm not going to overdrive the car, and it was the mark of a driver who is well in control of themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's also the difference between him and some other drivers here. Like, I mean, Antonov clearly has a much better pace than Todt in these races, and he's always rather a contender for a race victory. But oh, Banky goes off there.
Let's see if Antonov goes through. No, he doesn't, but this is costing them both an awful lot of time. I am a little bit speechless, Rob. Banky struggling like this. It's not normally something we expect from a driver as well experienced as he.
Oh, that's certainly a surprise. 2.3 seconds is the gap now to Fiduci. There's a little train forming behind him. I think both Antonov and Pinces are going to go for it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, if I was Banky, I wouldn't even be fighting it right now. I would be looking at the scenario and assuming that we're potentially going to lose a bit more time. Antonov is a man on a mission, and if you drop back behind him, you can use that slipstream and you can use that to push you up a little bit further, just to drag you closer if things work out that way. And if not, you can tactically work your way maybe back into the podium battle later in the race. Another mistake from Bent Banky, more time cost. Is this the dive from Kirill Antonov? No, certainly not. He is going to wait for the Duttinger-Hoa. But there is pace missing from the Dur Esports man of Bent Banky. There was contact between these two on lap 1, if you remember. It's not looking good. I don't think Banky will fight this one too hard.
And let's see if they're actually going to pass him here, or if they will bump draft him. Let's first see at the front, of course. It's gonna be a bump draft. I think it only makes sense. It could be an incident point as well, so they have to be careful.
Very smart though. Very, very smart. Work together, not against each other. There we are. They are going for the move. And that is exactly what I was expecting.
And look at that Pinsesh.
Adam Pinsesh, though, he is going to bump draft with Bence Banki and maybe try and grab both of them. Antonov being dropped backwards. He's got Martin Barner as well, who's going to try and go through and is going to successfully go through. Is Adam Pinsesh going to try and make a move? Surely not from this position, but maybe down into turn 1. That really worked against Antonov. And I don't know, I don't necessarily agree with what Pinsesh did there.
Well, I do, if I'm Pinsesh. I think it was just the absolute opportunistic move that, was the best opportunity he had to gain a position here, and he took it.
But when Banki's struggling, do you not think it would be better to work with Antonov and try and gain?
I think he will pass Banki here. Oh, Banki squeezing him a little bit.
Not quite, yeah. Banki doing that defensive action, more contact between the two, more instant points being dished out between the quartet that we currently have on screen. David Toth just waiting in the background in that 7th spot. The 4 drivers that we have here, Banki, Pinsesh, Barner, Antonov, David Toth just a little bit off the rear end of this. The harder they fight, the more Toth will be a part of it. Oh, a little bit of a mistake there from Martin Barner, and Kirill Antonov was searching for a way down the inside into Dunlop. No way to do so. Defensive from Barner. Antonov to go around the outside, a brush between the two, more incident points, continuing to do so up towards the Michael Schumacher-S, but that is going to be sorted out there. Ooh, dicey stuff, more time being lost, and there's stuff even in the background.
Yeah, I think it was Shooty again in the background fighting there. So we have to look, it's just 2 tenths between the leaders as well. I think Fiducci has made it clear that he doesn't want to pass Keithley.
Agree.
No one pitted yet. I think that might be because of fuel as well, but at the end of this lap we can definitely expect some people to pit.
First retirement of the race, Leandro Vela out of proceedings. Did see there was a little bit of contact in the background running into Dunlop, and Nico Kramer's dropped down to the rear end of the field. Bence Banki, who we're looking on with backwards. Martin Barner and Kirill Antonov. A little bit of contact as well between Banki and Pinsesh. This 5-driver train going to be probably racing this as hard as you can. And this is where, though, if Banki continues to make the mistakes as he has done on the previous lap, it is going to cost this entire train, which is why I don't necessarily agree with Pinsesh sitting behind. I think it would have been better to get by with Antonov and then work forward.
I don't think that Pinsesh thinks that he can catch the leaders. And I think Pinsesh, he knows that he's faster than Banki. So yeah, for him it's maybe better to be behind Banki and have Barner, Barner almost losing it there, behind him, because that's a more comfortable position than being behind Antonov, who might be able to drive away.
Either way, very easy to judge, at least from an opinionated point of view, like myself, because I'm very opinionated. From the commentary booth, it's much harder to make those decisions on the fly. Maybe there's some information that Pinsesh missed. Maybe, like you say, he's kind of thinking in the longer term game of this battle itself. On board with Kirill Antonov right behind Martin Barner. Here's that speedy run through Schwegenkreuz, a fantastic corner into Arenberg, and that tricky braking zone. It does open its way to a move on the inside, Rob, but it's not really one you could just commit on braking, because as much as a hairpin, it's so fast.
Yeah, it's very difficult to make any move in this section here as well. It's almost impossible. Only if the driver ahead makes a mistake, but we've seen many mistakes here on the leaderboard. This corner. Bit of a mistake for Pinsesh, I think.
So it's a little bit off the rear end of Bence Banki, but naturally you'd kind of, I'd suspect there are going to be mistakes more inside the train, because you're spotting your turning points, your brake markers, etc. But you're trying to do it behind someone else, and you're essentially having to do some of it by spotting the markers through the other driver's car, which is very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's hard on your own, so it won't get easier in the train.
Certainly not when you've got an awful lot of pressure from behind as well. Mikko Räikkönen with Pliszka. No further progress from Räikkönen at the moment as he runs around in 13th position, still as he was when we joined him a little bit earlier. There's 2 Dury Sports drivers in this train. Florian Harsa is towards the front of it as they run through 3 fast rights. This is back up to Kirill Antonov. I mean, miss there was a fantastic corner. Or three. Did you count it as 3 corners or just 1?
Oof, you ask questions.
Yeah.
I think I would count it as 3, but...
I would also count it as 3, but that's the controversial topic. Let's see this train then rise up. It'll be once again bump drafting between the top 2. Fiducci will probably wait until the final lap of the race, or potentially until the gap is so big that he doesn't think it's going to be closed down, which I don't think it's too far away from. Nearly 4 seconds separates this train and the race lead. Banky just not having the pace on the day. There is Keithley leading. We've seen this bump drafting, we've seen this enormous slide, and I could see it time and time again. I'm assuming we're probably going to get that slide once again from Keithley running through Milk which is brilliant to see. Let's see as it unfolds. Little bit of bump drafting, gaining speed again and again and again. This takes bravery. Less of a slide this time, much more controlled, very, very fast.
A little bit further behind, Pincic with a small mistake, and I think Antonov had a bigger mistake there because the gap really went up. But everyone that calm, with Wout and Neck.
Oh, that is brave. That is brave. It's very slow. That is brave, though, to go side by side through there. They're going to make a bit of contact. Relatable, been there, done that. Tick that one off myself. And Neg going to try and gain this position. Luciano Wittfoot, more contact between the two. Who's going to come out on top before they hit the carousel? It is Mihai Neg completing the move before we've even got there. That was tight. That was a tussle, and that is the kind of stuff that I suspect we'll see between Fiducci and Keithley before we reach the checkered flag.
Let's see if they pit on the same lap. Because it's an interesting decision to take. So your car is of course faster with fresh tires, but you lose the fuel, so it also gets lighter. And since I think most drivers started with a full tank, they never really reached that. You know, the longer they drive the first stint, the lighter their car gets. Where's Keithley?
Oh no. How? I was going to say it's a connection issue, and I would still assume it's a connection issue, because I don't know. I don't know. Either way, this is bad for a few reasons. Number one, that is horrific luck from Jack Keithley. I'm sure we'll hear from Keithley as to what has happened. Terrible, terrible luck. But for Gianmarco Fiducci, that's not great, because now if the train behind works together, that gap every time you go onto the Zuttinger Hoa is going to close, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like Keithley's coming back. He's still listed as being on the server, so it's a strange to see him lying through the earth like this. But yeah, it doesn't look like there's any chance for him to get back into the race. And that's of course bad. Oh, Banky. Sideways again there. Yeah, they might close the gap to Fiducci, but not the way Banky is driving right now.
No, this is why they need to switch this. I mean, I would suspect that Pincic is going to do this right here, right now. He is going to get by ASAP. A reminder that Fiducci, by the way, despite having won in the CUPRA e-racing competition twice, one of course in the pre-qualifier races to get into it. That one was at not Suzuka, it was at Shanghai in the second race, remember that one. And then obviously taking that win at Spa in the actual finals for the CUPRA e-racing competition, that being in the electric car. In the CUPRA SimRacing Series itself, yet to take a victory, and today looks like a very good day to do it, although with these two pushing each other like this, it's going to be hard. It is going to be hard. They need to time their pit stops well. Are they going to do it this time by no move from Adam Pincic? More than happy to push Bence Banky. And why not? When you know that Jack Keithley is out of the race, they'll know this. They'll be very, very aware. Are they going to pit? Surely not.
Antonov is going to pit. But he's the only one.
I'd want to stay out. I'd want to stay out and just burn this fuel down. Get the car faster. Get into the rhythm. Tick the laps off. Although maybe these drivers will lose time battling it out between them. So who knows? I wouldn't say I'm normally right with these tactical moves. So We'll see as it is. Antonov then dropping down the order. Is Ben Zupanek in with him? No, I believe. We'll find out.
There's a few cars. Pliska is in. That's Lukas Werle. That is, I think Sokovikov at the front. I think it might be Mukonen as well. So a couple of drivers into the pits here. But Antonov the only one from the front, so he won't have a draft partner.
And obviously what will happen is, for anyone who's never watched this CUPRA SimRacing Series or anything on RaceRoom with these 4 pit stops, there we go. The leaderboard on the left-hand side of your screen, we've got this this tyre graphic type thing on the furthest right-hand side. When they have completed their pit stop, it will go from the grey that is normally to the green to say that the required pit stop, the mandatory pit stop, has been completed. Kirill Antonov, the first one to tick that one off, along with Zupanek, Pliska, Werle, Tiladina and Pavel Mukonen.
Here we can see the gap between Banki and Fiducci, 3.4 seconds now. It was bigger. It was over 4 seconds before.
Oh, I think we've got a race on. I think we absolutely have a race on. It needs to be nailed every single time through the green hell for all of these drivers. If they want to win this race, if this group wants to win this race, they can do it. They can close that gap. But it's going to take perfection from them and potentially even a mistake from Fiducci.
And let's see if they all manage the flawless pit stop. It's not that easy with the speed limit.
It is quite a slow pit lane. It is not a fast one, and it's quite an awkward entry with that barrier.
Yeah, and then also the other question is someone maybe even going to go 1 lap longer?
Would you take it as far as you could?
No,
or would
I wouldn't.
you try and pit with other people?
I think I would try to pit with other people.
Yeah.
Because you always have to draft on the Döttinger Höhe.
Draft is way, way too critical around here.
Yeah, but what do you do when you're Pinsech and if Banki stays out? Do you even have enough fuel?
Very good point. Although you just, well, never mind. I was going to say you'd suspect that the car behind will use less fuel because of the slipstream. Although that said, around here, because obviously you'd be lifting off a little bit more through some corners. That said, though, around here you will be guzzling quite a lot because you're bump drafting, you're pushing, you're trying to sit as close as possible. It's not the same as it is like at, the Daytona 500 or anything like that. You are using a lot of fuel. And the difference will be fairly negligible anyway.
Yeah. I would suspect that most drivers come into the pits at the end of this lap.
Yeah. Suspect that they can go 1 lap further, right?
I think it should be just about possible.
Is it worth the risk, though? I would suggest no. We'll see. Maybe for Fiducci it is. Because if he's not got a slipstream partner, he may need to go as long as possible.
Yeah, but he also needs track position, of course. So for him it also makes sense to mirror the strategy from the other drivers. Because if he loses track position because he has a horrible lap or so on his own, well, I don't know. I think most of the drivers will come in at the end of this lap, but we will see at the end of this lap.
This gap's not coming down as much as I would have suspected. Of course, it will do more so on the Döttinger Höhe, no doubt. But if it only comes down, say, half a second a lap, well, you've got 3.5 seconds. Consider how many more laps we're going to do. I don't think you need to take any ridiculous gambles. You've just got to drive yourself. So I'd be with you. I don't want to get stuck in traffic, but if I do, I do. I just don't want to be dropped back massively into the pack courtesy of a mistake by maybe just pushing it a little bit too far or having to fuel save.
Yeah, I think now we're coming up to a section though after Bergwerk when you come to Kesselchen. That's another place where you could bump draft. And Banki's he's lost about 2-3 tenths to Fiducci over the lap. That's not so much. The gap's going up a little bit now, but we can't trust it all the time exactly. So it's about 3.8, 3.6 now. So I think here Pinsech can maybe bump draft Banki. We will see it now.
Yeah. What we saw Fiducci and Keithley doing. We're riding on board from the perfect angle to see this one unfold from Adam Pinsech. And there we are. Take a look at the exhaust and the underneath of a CUPRA. Brilliant stuff. Naturally, that's exactly what we're doing. There's a couple of tenths already gone. Make sure you don't make a mistake. These drivers all made a mistake through this corner a lap ago, all running quite wide. Are they going a little bit wide, but not too bad this time from Bence Banky? So on the limit.
3.1.
So much risk.
Well, now it's back up to 3.5. We don't really know, but I think they're gaining a bit of time.
This is just, like I say, that this kind of environment, this is adding so much pressure to make sure that that pit stop is perfect. Another little mistake there from Bence Banky. It was small, might have been hard to miss, just ran a little bit too high into the carousel, did manage to bring it down, wasn't spat out of it, which happens time and time again to drivers around this circuit. It's why it's one of the most famous corners in the world of motorsport. There's Kirill Antonov post pit stop, running around in 16th position in a world of his own. Is this a good strategy, or was this a misstep? Just trying to get into clean air, trying to get out of the battle pack? I don't know, and we'll only find out at the final moments.
Looks like Pliska has lost a lot of time in the pit stop. Pliska in the 22. The beige car just about stays in front of Lucas Werle. He's a bit further behind than I would have expected him to be.
Yeah. No disrespect, not the prettiest shade is Pliska's car.
He will drive this car from the next round
Yes.
on.
Which,
A bit wide.
yeah, opinions in chat as to the Ballas Esports livery.
I think it's
bright.
cool. I like it.
I like it.
It's not quite
like
as
the
bright
Virtu
as the car
drivers.
from Montgomery.
That car is maybe a little bit too far. I quite like, we don't have one on the grid, but I actually really like the Virtual Drivers by TX3 car. I like
see that one as well in the hands of
dark blue and
Ottaviani
bright green.
next time.
Yes. Very much looking forward to that. Very much. Lovely to see the liveries on the CUPRA SimRacing Series grid, as we've started having in esports competition over here on RaceRoom, and it really is good to see this brightening up and livening up the field. It makes our lives a bit easier, doesn't it, where we get to pick apart the drivers at a distance without too much fear, because we can actually see that one is a Team Fordzilla driver and a Dur Esports driver. It's really, really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
Dur
is where
even made it
times will
with the different mirror colors, so you can always see that's Bunky with the red ones.
Green ones in the background just popping over was Florian Harsa.
Bunky just, it's a shame that I didn't show it, he just drank a glass of water on the straight, so he's not feeling the pressure right now. Oh, but Pinchas is going for it.
Felt he had to. Are they going to lose a lot of time from doing this? I would, even if I was Banky, I'd almost lift out and just get back in line. There's no point in fighting this right now. He's going to fight though with Martin Barner. Oh, tight stuff. Barner gets through as well. Barner goes on the push of his old teammate. Those two working together, as they did in the previous season for AAA Esports. Now so in different outfits. Pinsesh and Barner both now having to work together. Is he going to go for it? Is he going to go for a little bit of sip of water? No, not this time. They were all into the pit lane though, Rob.
Gucci is also in, Todd is in. Todd is gaining a lot of time back on the pit entry. Is anyone staying out?
Ottaviani in the background, just spot him with Zoltan Suti as well. Mikhail Rekel in that black car for Dur Esports into the pit lane. Florian Harsa, currently our focus of our attention.
Everyone's
now, the big
coming
question is, where is Kirill Antonov going to come out in comparison to all this? He's on a Duttinger Hoa now. There's a few more corners before we'll find out. I get the feeling might have lost time. It's whether he's behind the likes of David Toth or not. He lost out that much. Only one way to find out. Only a couple more corners to go for Kirill Antonov to see where he is. Gianmarco Fiducci, though, our race leader, all trying to tick off their pit lane. We'll find out if anyone has a drive-through once they have departed the pit lane. Here comes Kirill Antonov then out of the final corner. Wait for them all to tick green. Martin Barner and Adam Pinsesh, Bence Banky, those ones all ticking green. Same with Gianmarco Fiducci out of the pit lane clear. Here comes Kirill Antonov. Is he going to be able to get through any of this? I think he may just rejoin the rear end of this train. Alessandro Ottaviani speeding in the pit lane. A drive-through for our previous championship leader. That is absolutely insane from the Italian. James Montgomery, a drive-through penalty as well. Ottaviani, though. Oh, my God.
Look how much time Barna lost.
Yeah, so much time. Maybe a little bit too cautious into pit lane. Kirill Antonov didn't lose out too much, so he is actually right on the rear end of the train, which is for second position now. Could potentially be for the race lead if they all work together. There is Ottaviani, who's going to have to return to the pit lane. That, Rob, is going to drop into last. All the way down.
Well, not to last, because Montgomery also has the same penalty.
Right,
but it's still going to be a pretty big disaster for Neck and Wittwood once again. Wittwood pushing Neck a little bit into the gravel there. But further up the field, Antonov with the warm tires, he's attacking Bunky.
Whoa, absolutely sent. There's a little bit of contact, understanding that Bence Banky was making a few mistakes in the early part of the race. They're still going to battle it out. This is dropping them off the back of Adam Pinsech. They're still side by side. We're going to run through Ad Van Bogen, and they're going to continue to remain side by side up towards the chicane. You can see there Bence Banky not happy. A little bit of a shake of the head, drops out of it, shakes of the hand. Almost a little bit of Italian in him himself there with that. But down to fourth, Antonov he felt he needed to get by. It said that, look, mate, you've had enough mistakes today. Let me do the work.
And it almost feels like Antonov's strategy was better. He was all alone there. He didn't get a bump draft like Bunky did. And he still gained 2 places out of all of this.
I think it shows how many mistakes Banky was making and how, again, slow he was through this part of the racetrack, because obviously they were gaining a lot of time through bump drafting, through slipstream. They were losing time all the way through here, and I think Antonov knew it. There's your race leader, Gianmarco Vidici. It's down around 3 seconds, but Antonov will have to close up to the back of Pinsech. We'll be able to push him, though, on the Zettinger Hoa, so that is not done. And again, I will maintain, I do not believe the battle for the race lead is done. This is most certainly not over. There is Vidici for Team Fordzilla. No teammate today, Juan Manuel Gomez. You can see there's 23 cars on the grid. Gomez was supposed to be here, the 24th driver, unfortunately not joining us for this evening's action, but the colours being represented in the best possible fashion by an awful lot of laps led. If Keith Lee was with him, I'd almost say he had better chances of a victory, because that train's coming fast from behind, and they will not wait for him to join the battle.
He loses it here. Under pressure by Schutte.
Big lock-up as well ahead from Harsa.
And I think it's a typical Florian Harsa race. It's not his favorite track. He openly admits it. He's not that good on this track. He doesn't really like driving here. But still, he's just, gaining places. Other people make mistakes. Ottaviani will be the next one that he passes. And he will get a very good points finish in this race.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's the important stuff. It's just consistency is what's going to make you championship. If we can get a top 5, which I wouldn't necessarily rule out, because Martin Barner's not very far ahead after a slow pit stop. There is Antonov right on the rear end of Adam Pinsech. So keep your eye on the gap. 3 and a bit seconds, say around about 3 seconds. Use that as the reference, because once you're within slipstream range, that'll disappear anyway. So realistically, has to close up maybe around 2 seconds. Mistake from Kirill Antonov, though, through Callanhard. Though he's clearly feeling the pressure, and he's clearly pushing and needs to get on with it. Whoa, big slide there through miss, hit, miss. That's miss, hit, miss, and slide.
And was very close to crashing, I think.
Yeah.
But he needs to be close here, and I think ideally he has to bump draft. He has to bump draft Pinsech when they come up to the long straight here, when they come up out of Bergwerk. Still a few corners to go. This corner is so difficult to drive in this car. Always go too far over the curb on the outside. Just drags you out.
Antonov was pushing it himself through there, so an easy mistake to make. And obviously if you've got one wheel on the grass, one wheel on the tarmac, you're not going to get the drive off the corner you want.
But it's not close enough. You can't give Pinsech a bump draft here.
Could show that pushing too hard, those costly errors, and obviously battling it out with Bence Banky as well, may have just cost a little bit of time to the young Russian. Still certainly not over yet. We'll have a couple of laps after this one to see who's going to win win the only 60-minute race. This is on board with David Toth, pushing his fellow Hungarian and trying to keep the Italian of Alessandro Ottaviani at bay, although that one's almost a moot point. It's almost irrelevant, because that'll be a position that'll be dropped back anyway, as Ottaviani has a drive-through penalty to serve. Well, that'll give Harsa more points.
Everyone's very calm here, so let's go to Wittwold, because I don't think he will be. And Salo is then the other absolute car, but he's not close enough to make a move.
So, you'd normally assume, wouldn't you, that Finnish drivers are very calm, very relaxed, and very patient, almost in a sense, you know. Rasmus Salo has been quite aggressive in a few races, at least in the past. I'm not sure how he is now. I've not seen him too much now. But he's a driver that knows how to get his elbows out. Nothing too far, but knows how to approach a race and hold a position. Right? He's got a lot of experience in sim racing. I'm sure you'll probably know that a bit better than me.
Yeah, he's one of these old school touring car drivers, back from the time when we were both pretty active in the leagues. You know, just like Jack Keithley, and he learned from Jack Keithley as well some of his driving. I think he's a very good driver. Very fast over one lap. He's been working hard to get onto the pace here, and he will be rewarded with his own livery in the next round. So I think we can expect a little bit more as the season progresses. It was the same in East Coast WTCR last year. It just got better and better, but it's a tough field.
Yeah, it really, really is. It's incredibly strong. We were talking about it before, that the CUPRA SimRacing Series has never been weak. We've always had very, very strong grids in the CUPRA SimRacing Series. So much so that we use drivers like Jack Keithley and Ben Spanky as benchmarks for the rest of the field. Jack Keithley, yes, sure, he's won in all 3 of the seasons of the CUPRA SimRacing Series so far, but only those 3 races are the ones that he's won. He hasn't won in any other race. Ben Spanky only won 4 races in the CUPRA SimRacing Series. Gergo Bowdy, I'm pretty sure, has only won 1 in the CUPRA SimRacing Series.
Most victories should be still David Notch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. By a long way as well. I think it's by over double. Has 9 race wins in the series. I think Moritz Lerner and Ben Spanky both have 4. Really is very, very strong, and this season is as strong, if not, let's be real here, stronger than previous ones. It is an immensely strong field, worthy of the highest echelons of sim racing, and certainly proves that every time we go racing. Here comes the bump draft, and it is a big one from Kirill Antonov. That was an enormous push, and Banky sat there, and he is way too far off the back to take any sort of advantage. Here's another bit of a push, just again on the rear end of Adam Pinsesh. Really, really good stuff. That was an important knock, and you can see how much the gap has come down already.
Nice work there from Antonov. He knows that this is his best opportunity. Todd was close as well, was thinking about it. Going for the move. 2 laps to go after this one. Taviani staying out.
So Pinsesh and Antonov really have to close a second a lap if they want a chance.
Oh,
that's tight from Toth. Oh, sorry, not from Toth. That's from Rasmus. Oh, Mihai Neg rather, on the back of Luciano Wittfurt. You've got Rasmus Salo ahead of this, and Kramer just basically sat there almost expecting a crash.
Neg will have one more opportunity into turn 1. Gets the outside from Wittfurt.
Let's see what happens here. We're going to go 3 wide. A bit of a dive maybe from Kramer. No way through Mihai Neg. Going to go around the outside of T1. This time going to try and make it stick on Luciano Wittfurt. There is a little bit of a brush between the two as Wittfurt was trying to go to the left. It's such an awkward section of racetrack. You're better off lining up for a cut back. Mihai Neg gains the position. 19th spot. Is there going to be a dive from the Dutchman? Not yet.
Great driving there from Mihai Neg. Only driver from Romania on the grid. Following in the footsteps of Cristian Moisescu and Thomas Stempurski, who's been racing for a long time on the RaceRoom competitions. Now it seems like it's the time of Mihai Neg.
Battling out with the only Dutchman on the grid.
Yeah, very few Dutch drivers.
Yeah. It's a lot of, there's a lot, and naturally where there's a lot of competition in a sense.
Taviani has passed Todd. What has happened there?
Still has that drive through to say that. I think Todd, I mean, it's in a weird spot for them to have switched positions, but potentially just a dive from the Italian, or maybe a mistake more so potentially on the exit of the previous corner at Varstina that maybe just dropped him back.
And I can imagine that Todd will be annoyed that Ottaviani is even racing with him.
With a drive through, yeah, absolutely. I'd be annoyed. I mean, I get it doesn't take much to annoy me in a racing environment. Like, you've been on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, but also on the giving, so.
Long time ago now. That's why we're in the booth.
Yeah, I tried on the pre-qualifier here, and I did a 52, and I felt like it was such a good lap. You know, I thought like felt like I was young again, and it was a 52. It was 4 seconds off. So, yeah, very hard to keep up here.
Well, I don't try anymore. It's, I couldn't do this. These drivers are very, very, very impressive, and there is a lot of young talent on the field battling out with the experience, and that is exactly what we write our stories about in sim racing. Here's two teammates of Dirt Esports. You've got Florian Harsa going to try and maybe push, or be pushed rather, by Mikko Raikkonen, who's directly behind. They've got their long time battle, I'm sure. Well, I say long time, obviously Dura Esports and sim racing is fairly new, but in a sense this is a battle that we will see for a long time, because Mirror Esports, Zoltan Citi directly behind, Ben Supernex way too far behind to assist his teammate through these matters. Raikkonen and Harsa running inside the top 10, which I think will be pretty good for them. They'll both be inside the top 8 once Ottaviani comes in for his penalty, but not a bad day for Dura Esports considering that Banky's up there in 4th. These two are still inside the top 10. Could be worse.
Could be worse, but honestly, Dura Esports doesn't quite seem to have the pace to win races outright here. They had, of course, Lerner in the first race. Then Antonov was very dominant in Silverstone.
Yeah.
And now really again, Fiducci, Keithley. I mean, Keithley really should have gotten the win, or at least second here. And also Pinsach. I mean, Pinsach and Antonov, they are dropping Bunky.
Hearing potentially from Mr. Keithley himself that was potentially a game crash or something in that vein that dropped him out of it, which is, you know, kind of in that vein of what it looks, either that or a disconnection, etc. A terrible shame. You know, that is a horrible thing to go through in such a race, especially when it was looking like it was going to be an intense battle between him and Fiducci at the final part of the race. But has said as well, you know, it's a shame, happens. See you next round. Go Fiducci. So he wants Fiducci to win this race.
Yeah, they've been working together pretty well.
Yeah. Potentially a friendship made.
It's good that Keithley has someone to work with in the series, because he doesn't have a teammate. Lerner, of course, swapped to Dur. He's the only Williams driver. Tiladina here. It's just something I want to show you, maybe. I'm not sure if it will work, but let's just try it. Some nice stickers at the back of the car of Atiladina. Not sure if you can see it there, but he got creative with this livery. That was before he joined MRS Esports, so he's part of that team now. Running in P15 at the moment. One of the youngest drivers on the grid, of course.
You've got to get creative with the liveries. I commentated on someone who has a white livery with Comic Sans written all over it in colourful rainbow colours, saying graphic design is my passion, which is an excellent livery. Why not? These two bump drafting, potentially not as well as we were seeing between Fiducci and Keithley earlier, but they are bump drafting nonetheless. Raikkonen on the rear end of Harsa, just trying to keep Zoltan Citi at bay at the rear end of the top 10. A lap to go after this one around the Nordschleife. Obviously the pit window's closed and everyone has been into the pit lane. Just two retirements, being Verla and Jack Keithley. Nearly a dive from Raikkonen there on Florian Harsa, which was actually what he did at the end of the Silverstone race, wasn't it? Where he sort of accidentally sent it on his teammate and potentially got in the way of Harsa's attempt at a race victory.
Yeah, that was a tough fight there, tough race between the Dura Esports drivers. And I mean, it's clear when you have a team with basically 4 absolute top drivers, then it might be difficult to sort each other out, find the right order to finish the race in. I'm not sure who's the candidate for the championship in the Durham. Is it Bunky or is it Harsa? I'm not sure.
I think it's one of those things that we'll see as the season unfolds. And this kind of, like, obviously you will know from having raced this back in your days at THR and me elsewhere in sim racing and whatnot. Yeah, if you go into it with 3 drivers or whatever that are potentially capable of winning the title, you just attack it as a team, right? You just get whatever result you can. You're going to battle it out. You're going to race it. You're going to race it as hard as you can, and then maybe halfway through the season or a bit later on even, you then start to decide who's leading the effort this season. Earlier last season, it was actually quite obvious from the very early stages that for Mirror Esports, that was David Nosh after when he took that double victory at Zandvoort. So there it's clear, here less so with the Dortmund.
Yeah, Mira was always, for them it was always a bit easier, I think, because they always had one driver who's performing exceptionally well, and the other ones were a little bit behind, so it was either Baldi or Notch who's the top driver, and I think even this season it's easy, it has to be Barner who's the lead driver for this championship. But with I think Bunky will go back ahead of us in the standings after this race.
I think from an experience point of view, and from obviously, like, if it was before the season, I would have said Moritz Lerner. It was the runner-up last season. It would make more sense, as there's a little bit of bump drafting again between Ottaviani and Tot. But at the moment, and realistically, and this is no disrespect to Florian Harsa, but Harsa is one of those drivers that sometimes has a round where it just doesn't quite click. And I know, obviously, Banky does as well. But if you've got a driver who can win championships in RaceRoom, I would potentially more back Bent Banky.
Look at this. Antonov is not close enough to push Pinsash. This could be the decision for Fiducci, because he will go into the last lap.
What happened to Antonov? Maybe a couple of mistakes. That gap's quite large between them. We'll get a little bit of a bump in, but I think it may well just be a battle for second between the Russian and the Hungarian, the Italian of Gianmarco Fiducci, looking like today might be the day. Pliska and Zupanek switch positions for 11th position. Zupanek drops back even further down to 13th position as Lucas Vela also gets through.
Have to check the first corner now, though. Because Antonov could make a move here, and it could make sense to make a move as well.
Yeah. Doesn't. You saw him back off a little bit there. Doesn't go for the move. Braked a little bit earlier just to allow Pinsesh to carry on. I think maybe a move would have been a bit more on it. Maybe try and apply the pressure yourself.
Zupanek and Verle. Also everything staying as it is.
Turn one's not the easiest, they would take an opportunity. There is Alessandro Ottaviani, left it a couple of laps to stay out and try and gain a little bit more time so it's less painful. Going to come out in 17th. It'll become 16th once Montgomery comes into the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty. There's Rasmus Salo behind Mihai Neg, behind Luciano Wittfurt, so clearly had a little bit of a mistake because he was ahead of both of those drivers not very long ago. And so there may well be that battle continuing. Let's see if Kirill Antonov will make a move. I very much doubt it. I think he's going to hold his position and maybe slipstream past the Hungarian on the final lap of the race in the Döttinger Höhe. Might be his only option.
Yeah, maybe he's really waiting for this, but this time he wasn't close enough. Pinsash has a really good pace here. I think Pinsash might be the fastest driver outright at the moment, because he closed in a little bit on Fiducci. Fastest lap time, I think, is from Fiducci, 51.2, but Pinsash just did 51.3.
Yeah, I mean, the last lap for Fiducci as well was that 51.240, so a very, very fast lap time. Kirill Antonov, who's currently on the screen, actually had an invalid lap on the previous one, so can't tell what his was, but his fast lap, as you see, was a 51.279, 51.360 from Pinsash ahead. Obviously not receiving any major assistance from behind on that lap, so it was a direct comparison between himself and Fiducci, and it was a 10th going the way of the Italian, and how crucial that could be. On to the final lap of the race. The timer will tick down to 0 this time by. We are on to the final lap at the Nordschleife for 60 minutes of racing ready to come to a close. Florian Harsa and Mikko Räikkönen inside the top 8, but Zoltan Siuti might say something about that as we ride on board with the Hungarian up towards Flugplatz and that very, very speedy run towards Schwedenkreuz.
So bouncy.
The commitment is extreme. You have to be brave around here. In this car, it's not your typical circuit where you could drive it at, maybe 98% and use the slipstream to pull you along. Around here, you have to be fully committed. You have to be brave. There is no margin for error. Proper circuit, and that is why it is loved the world over. I say the world over. There are some people who dislike it, but I always assume with those people they can't drive it, like me.
It's not easy to drive though, so it's understandable in a way. Just look at this corner here. Look at the elevation changes. And it's crazy when you drive the track yourself as well. Like I've not driven it in a car myself, but I've taken a passenger ride with a professional driver and it was crazy. The compression in this area.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have that in sim racing, but you still need to navigate the corners.
But
it's still quite a big challenge.
In sim racing, though, if you imagine back 5-6 years ago, whenever it was, probably even a bit less than that, before we had a laser scanned version of the circuit, maybe I get why people disliked it. Whereas these days, it's laser scanned, right? It is to its highest detail. It is like driving. Oh, not like driving real things. It's not, because there's no threat of instant death when you crash, which is one of the terrifying factors around the circuit. But it's as near as you can get from the comfort of your own home, with it being built in the craziest levels of details these days, and that's where you get the vibe. That's where you get the flow.
And I think there's also something special about sim racing on the Nordschleife, because on the real Nordschleife you have very often very difficult track conditions, and you don't exactly know how how the grip is gonna be in the next corner. If you watch the 24-hour race, you have the lap cars and everything. There are a lot of factors, and here it's like more, there are not so many uncertainties here, so it's easier, of course, in a way. But I think it also allows to push a little bit harder.
Yeah. It does mean that to be good around here, like I say, you have to be perfect. There isn't, you can take it a little bit more carefully. No. There's none of that. You have to be absolutely spot on, pitch perfect, much like this man.
Yeah, Viducci, what a great race. It looked like it would get a lot harder for him when Keithley had the problem there and dropped out of the race. But so far, seems like no problem for the Italian.
Responded to it very well, hasn't he? Responded like it would be very, very easy for that to get inside your head. Like that's from either way, either thinking, oh God, I might actually win this, and then maybe take it a little bit too easy, or think, oh God, they're catching too quickly from behind, and then pushing a little bit too hard. Hasn't let it get in his head, and is driving around seemingly very comfortably right now, and just so consistently. Obviously puts in an awful lot of work, does Fiducci. So
yeah, but we've seen the list before. The list of the drivers. Oh, just have to go to another battle here, because there's a side-by-side out of the carousel between Verle and Supernek. And it's Verle who comes out ahead.
Very, very close. I've had you don't typically see a move out of the carousel. Would assume that Ben Supernek made a mistake. Maybe he went in a little bit too hot and dropped up over the top leg, just crested a little bit and allowed Lucas Verle to come through. They're not too far off the back of Pliska and may remove him from inside of the top 10. Should they be able to catch? But look at that moment from Lucas Verle. Oh, and over the curb as well, onto two wheels. This is mistake city at the moment, and contact for good measure from behind.
Of course, you have to remember Verle is driving with a very high ping here, because he's racing from Brazil. Ooh, that was not the ping, that was actually the curb, and his car almost rolling over.
Montgomery didn't serve his drive-through, did he?
Yeah, he will get a penalty after the race, because he can't come in now anymore. That was also quite close.
argument for that penalty, saying that assume it was more for crossing the line, which isn't a penalty, and it was just for speeding a little bit. But you know, speeding a little bit, speeding a lot, same thing, same penalty. So unfortunately, it's just one of those things. 2.5 seconds of the battle for the race lead. Certainly not within this battle. Now, I know it's your teammate and stuff. You're going to go for an attempt on the Duttinger Her, aren't you? You're going to give it a go.
Yeah, I think so. I wonder what Suti's gonna do. I think he should try to draft one of them and push him, you know, past the other driver. I think that's the best he can do. Fiducci looks clear at the moment. Pinsash certainly not.
And this is it. Kirill Antonov has surely got to do something. You can see how fast Pinsash was, because again, once again, as he did in the previous lap, has built a gap that may well be enough. Let's see if the Russian can do anything. This is the weaving that we were speaking about earlier. They are allowed to do this. It's not moving in the braking zone. It is about, or moving twice rather, it's about just trying to break the slipstream. Here we go then. This could be it for Kirill Antonov, to the inside and potentially through up into second position. They're going to be side by side up towards the final corner and going to continue to do so. A little bit of a brush between the two. We'll go to Fiducci in due course, don't you worry, but Kirill Antonov has made the move, and yes, we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The day has finally arrived as Gianmarco Fiducci in the CUPRA SimRacing Series is going to come out on top here at the Nordschleife, the only 60-minute race of the season, and the points, 100 of them, go the way of the Italian. What a battle it could have been between him and Jack Keithley. Unfortunately, we were robbed of that, but it's Fiducci on top, Antonov on the podium again, and Adam Pinsash will be joining them. That move happening could be very, very important for Antonov's championship aspirations. Tight across the line, Florian Harsa does keep Mikhail Rakel at bay. Zoltan Suti was close with it, but no way through. These three staying the way they were, so you'd have to assume there was bump drafting in the Dur esports camp. But what a race. Finally, Fiducci is on top in the series.
Confirmation of the results here. Victory and fastest lap as well for the Italian, for Team Fordzilla. Gianmarco Fiducci, congratulations. Wins ahead of Antonov, who's really moving in on the championship fight here. Pinsash in third, was passed at the end, but still a good result for the Hungarian. Then Banki and Bana, our previous championship leader, who might still be in the championship lead afterwards. But I think it must be Fiducci, because it's the double points, of course.
Very, very big points from Gianmarco Fiducci, a driver who's been inside the top 5 on 3 occasions this season, or now 4, of course, and that was in the 4 races that have been before. It was only the first race of the season where I believe he finished 6th. So very, very consistent results from the Italian. Maybe this season could be his, finally taking that race win. We'll have to see how it unfolds for him. Plenty to go in the season, though. We are just 3 rounds into the 7-round season, where we'll take a little bit of a break between this one. But yeah, Rob, brilliant, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, what a fantastic race. And what a shame for Jack Keithley, of course. He was well in contention of winning the race. Dropped out of it. The good thing he can take away is he definitely has the pace this year in the CUPRA SimRacing Series. Anyway, we're trying to get Gianmarco Fiducci now into the interview. Gianmarco, can you hear me? Still waiting. We can't hear Gianmarco yet, so just a little moment. Gianmarco, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Oh, congratulations. What a race.
Thanks.
From you. First victory in the CUPRA SimRacing Series, and on the hardest track of them all. How was it?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And honestly, I'm a bit, not 100% buzzing right now, because I think it was Jack's victory, because he was a lot faster than me. And thanks to the slipstream, I was there. But, you have to be there to pick up the pieces, and I did that. It was a flawless race. I haven't put a single wheel off the track, and it was magnificent.
So we saw a statistic before the race which showed the amount of kilometers on the Nordschleife, and from all the drivers in the top 10, you had the least. So yeah, but it seems like you found a track here that might really work for your driving style.
It seems like, but it's a very long track, so every practice session you do becomes really heavy, and that's why I was trying to, I was saving my energies for this race.
So with this victory, you of course get the double points, and you move into a really good position in the championship. Do you think the title is possible this year?
Yeah, it's still very early, but I think it's a possibility. Of course, we are like 5-6 drivers that can battle for the championship, but for example, Jack already had 2 bad rounds, Baldi as well. Lohner wasn't here today, so they already spent their bonus round, and that will come very handy later. And yeah, consistency seems to be the key right now, so I hope it will be my year, but even improving my top 5 finish as last year, it would be great.
All right, congratulations once again. This is your day, Gianmarco. Great race from you. And back to Lewis.
Really, really good to hear. And yeah, hopefully more to come from Fiducci, a driver who has been working forward in sim racing for a while. And again, plenty to come in the season. Motorland Aragon next. We head across the across the border, but across the country as well, to get over to Spain. That is a little while off though, the 15th of July, so a good month. We're taking a fair break here, but you yourselves can get onto the grid by qualifying through the RaceRoom platform. And Rob, who wouldn't want to be on this grid?
Yeah, and not only this grid, there are 6 grids each round, so even if you're not that fast, I mean, it's kind of hard to be that fast, and of course only 24 people can get in, but there are 6 grids, so there's a really realistic chance to qualify for one of these races. First, we've got a big update on RaceRoom coming up, with a new force feedback, so yeah, the time attack competition should open in 2 weeks, and then you have 2 weeks to qualify. Well, in less than 2 weeks it should open, like 1.5. And then you've got 2 weeks to qualify to get onto one of these races here, and even if not, then it would be great if you can tune in again on the 15th of July for the race at Aragon.
Yes, and plenty more races to come. We go to Spa, we go to Hungaroring, Nürburgring, Monza, Bilsterberg, and of course, ending the season at the famous Macau, where we've ended the 2 previous seasons as well. It's going to be a thrilling fight for the title. Still 14 races to go, and 770 points up for offer for our drivers. We hope to see you next time, but until then, bye-bye.